Most people are terrified of standing alone. They need approval. They need validation. They need a crowd to tell them they're doing the right thing. That is why they stay average. The people who rise above everyone else learn a different lesson. They learn how to walk alone, think alone, work alone, grow alone, because real strength is built in isolation. This audiobook is about becoming so focused, so disciplined, and so mentally strong that you no longer need permission from anyone to become extraordinary. Stand alone, rise above everyone, and change your life forever. Chapter 1. Stop following the crowd. Look around. Most people are living the same life, thinking the same thoughts, following the same trends, repeating the same excuses, and getting the same average results. That is not an accident. That is what happens when people stop thinking for themselves. Listen carefully. The crowd creates average results, average beliefs, average habits, average lives, because crowds do not create greatness. Greatness has always belonged to people willing to think differently, to walk differently, to live differently. That is why you must stop following and start leading. Most people are trapped inside invisible chains, not physical chains, mental chains, chains created by society, chains created by fear, chains created by the opinions of other people. From childhood, you were taught to fit in, blend in, stay safe, do what everybody else does, think like everybody else thinks, want what everybody else wants. And if you become too different, too ambitious, too focused, people become uncomfortable. Why? Because your courage reminds them of their excuses. Weak people love conformity. Strong people value truth. Weak people follow trends. Strong people follow principles. Weak people need approval. Strong people need purpose. There's a difference, and that difference changes everything. Understand this. Most people never ask themselves what they truly want. They simply inherit the dreams of others. Society tells them what success looks like. Social media tells them what happiness looks like. Friends tell them how they should live. Family tells them what they should become. And before they know it, they spend decades living somebody else's life. That is tragic, because your future belongs to you, not society, not trends, not the crowd. You. And if you want extraordinary results, you cannot think like ordinary people. Impossible. Because ordinary thinking creates ordinary lives. The crowd wakes up without purpose. The crowd complains. The crowd follows distractions. The crowd wastes time. The crowd waits for permission. And then the crowd wonders why nothing changes. Stop being part of the crowd. Stop asking what everybody else is doing. Start asking what you need to do. Because transformation begins with independent thinking. Think about history. Every great inventor, every great entrepreneur, every great athlete, every great leader. At some point, they stood alone. People doubted them, criticized them, misunderstood them. Why? Because the crowd hates what it cannot understand. Average people defend average ideas. They mock ambition. They fear discipline. They reject change. Because change requires responsibility. And responsibility scares weak minds. That is why you must stop seeking comfort inside the crowd. Comfort is dangerous. Very dangerous. Comfort creates stagnation. Comfort creates excuses. Comfort creates average lives. And average lives create regret. Listen carefully. You do not need everybody to agree with you. You do not need everybody to understand your vision. You do not need permission to improve yourself. You need courage. Courage to think differently. Courage to make difficult decisions. Courage to walk your own path. Because the crowd will not build your future. The crowd will not create your discipline. The crowd will not save your potential. That responsibility belongs to you. And here is another truth. Most people confuse popularity with truth. Just because millions of people are doing something does not mean it is right. Millions of people waste time. Millions of people complain. Millions of people settle for less. Millions of people live distracted lives. Should you follow them too? No, because numbers do not create truth. Principles create truth. Discipline creates truth. Execution creates truth. Results create truth. That is why leaders think independently. They ask different questions. They challenge assumptions. They refuse to blindly follow what everybody else accepts. And you must learn to do the same. Stop copying. Start thinking. Stop following. Start leading. Because leadership begins with self-leadership. Can you control your emotions? Can you control your habits? Can you control your attention? Can you control your excuses? Because if you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead your future. And understand something important. Standing alone does not mean rejecting people. It means rejecting average thinking. It means refusing to surrender your life to public opinion. It means refusing to live according to somebody else's standards. It means choosing growth over approval, purpose over popularity, discipline over comfort, vision over distraction. That is power. Most people spend their lives trying to fit in, but successful people focus on standing out through discipline, not through attention, not through noise, through standards, higher standards, stronger habits, greater focus, because extraordinary lives require extraordinary thinking. And extraordinary thinking requires separation from the crowd. That separation will feel uncomfortable. Good. Growth is uncomfortable. Progress is uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable. Do not fear discomfort. Fear regret. Fear becoming average. Fear reaching the end of your life and realizing you spent decades following people who had no idea where they were going. That should terrify you, because your life is too valuable to waste chasing acceptance. Your dreams are too important to sacrifice for popularity, and your future is too powerful to surrender to the opinions of weak people. So think for yourself. Choose for yourself. Build for yourself. Live for your purpose. Because the crowd creates average results. Independent thinkers create extraordinary lives. Stop following. Start leading. Your future belongs to you. And remember this. Standing alone does not begin with isolation. It begins with thinking differently. It begins with refusing to allow the crowd to decide who you become. Because before you can rise above everyone, you must first become comfortable standing by yourself. And that brings us to the next lesson. Chapter 2. Learn to be comfortable alone. Most people are afraid of being alone, not because solitude is painful, but because silence forces them to face themselves. And many people spend their entire lives running from themselves. They surround themselves with noise, with distractions, with constant conversations, with endless entertainment, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. That is why they remain weak, because growth requires solitude. Growth requires silence. Growth requires separation. Listen carefully. Loneliness is not punishment. Loneliness is training. Isolation is not weakness. Isolation is preparation. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. But society teaches the opposite. Society tells you that being alone means something is wrong, that you must always be surrounded by people, always entertained, always connected, always seeking attention. But the truth is different. The strongest people in history learned how to stand alone. They learned how to think alone, work alone, grow alone, because real strength is built privately, not publicly. Understand this. If you cannot enjoy your own company, you will become dependent on the company of others. And dependence creates weakness. Weak people need constant validation. Weak people need constant attention. Weak people cannot sit quietly without reaching for distractions. But strong people are different. Strong people use solitude as a weapon. They read, they think, they train, they plan, they improve. While everybody else is chasing entertainment, they are building themselves. That is the difference. And that difference changes everything. Most people fear loneliness because they confuse loneliness with abandonment. But being alone and being abandoned are not the same thing. Being alone can be one of the greatest gifts life gives you, because solitude reveals who you really are, without the noise, without the opinions, without the expectations, just you. And sometimes it is uncomfortable. Good. Growth is uncomfortable, because when you are alone, you cannot hide, you cannot blame, you cannot perform, you cannot pretend. You are forced to confront your habits, your weaknesses, your fears, your excuses, and that is where transformation begins. Listen carefully. The person who cannot spend 1 hour alone without distractions is not free. They are addicted. Addicted to noise. Addicted to stimulation. Addicted to escaping themselves. That is dangerous. Very dangerous. Because freedom begins when you no longer need constant entertainment to feel alive. Freedom begins when silence becomes peaceful instead of frightening. Freedom begins when your happiness comes from within instead of from other people. That is real confidence. And confidence is built in solitude, not in crowds, not in applause, not in attention. Confidence is built when you keep promises to yourself. When you wake up early, train consistently, study quietly, work relentlessly, and nobody is watching. That is where self-respect is born. Most people fear missing out, but focused people fear wasting potential. There is a difference. One chases people, the other chases growth. One fears solitude, the other embraces it. One depends on others, the other depends on discipline. And discipline creates freedom. Understand this clearly. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your time and energy. Some people drain your peace, drain your focus, drain your ambition. They complain constantly, gossip constantly, create drama constantly. And if you spend enough time around them, their mindset becomes your mindset. That is why periods of solitude are necessary. Not because you hate people, because you love your future, because your goals deserve protection, because your mind deserves peace, because your potential deserves attention. Stop fearing isolation. Use it. Use lonely mornings. Use quiet evenings. Use silent moments. Because silence creates clarity, and clarity creates power. Think about this. Your greatest ideas will not come from noise. Your deepest growth will not come from distractions. Your strongest habits will not come from parties. They will come from solitude, because solitude forces you to think, and thinking creates transformation. That is why successful people protect their time aggressively. They understand something average people never learn. Energy is limited, attention is valuable, and peace is priceless. Protect all three. Stop giving everybody access to your mind. Stop saying yes to everything. Stop trying to please everyone, because trying to satisfy everybody guarantees you will lose yourself. And losing yourself is far more painful than being alone. Listen carefully. Being alone is temporary. Regret lasts forever. Do not sacrifice your future because you are afraid of temporary loneliness. Do not abandon your goals because people misunderstand your ambition. Do not shrink your dreams just to fit into rooms filled with average thinking. Stand alone, if necessary, because standing alone today can place you ahead tomorrow. And remember this: the eagle flies alone. The lion walks alone. The mountain stands alone. Strength does not fear solitude. Strength grows inside solitude. That is why your lonely season is not your punishment. It is your preparation. It is teaching you discipline, teaching you patience, teaching you self-control, teaching you independence. And one day you will thank God for the moments when nobody understood you, because those moments forced you to discover yourself. And self-discovery creates power. Most people never meet their true potential because they are too busy seeking company, too busy seeking approval, too busy chasing attention. Do not make that mistake. Learn to enjoy your own company. Learn to appreciate silence. Learn to become your own source of motivation. Because the day you stop fearing loneliness is the day you become dangerous. Dangerous to excuses. Dangerous to distractions. Dangerous to average thinking. And powerful people understand something the crowd never will. Growth happens in silence. Transformation happens in solitude. Greatness is often built alone, because loneliness is not your enemy. It is your training ground. And once you become comfortable standing alone, you are ready for something even more powerful. Because standing alone means nothing without discipline. Now it's time to build the habits and self-control that separate dreamers from builders. Chapter 3. Build discipline when nobody is watching. Anybody can perform when people are watching. Anybody can act motivated when applause is available. Anybody can look productive when attention is present. But character is revealed in private, not in public, not in front of cameras, not in front of friends. In private, when nobody is watching, when nobody is praising you, when nobody knows what you are doing. That is where real discipline is built. Listen carefully. Your future will not be determined by what you do occasionally. It will be determined by what you do repeatedly. And repetition happens in private, not in public. The workout nobody sees. The book nobody applauds. The sacrifice nobody understands. The early morning nobody celebrates. That is where greatness is built. Quietly, silently, repeatedly. Most people are performers. Very few people are builders. Performers need attention. Builders need progress. Performers talk. Builders execute. Performers seek recognition. Builders seek growth. There is a difference, and that difference separates average people from extraordinary people. Because success is not built through public appearances. Success is built through private habits. Understand this clearly. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect. Every time you wake up early, you are respecting yourself. Every time you keep your promises, you are respecting yourself. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you are respecting yourself. And self-respect changes everything. Because people who respect themselves do not tolerate weakness. They do not tolerate excuses. They do not tolerate laziness. They hold themselves accountable. That is power. Most people wait until they feel motivated. But motivation is temporary. Feelings are temporary. Emotions are temporary. Discipline is permanent. Discipline does not ask, "How do I feel?" Discipline asks, "What needs to be done?" And then it executes. That is why disciplined people always rise above. Emotional people, because emotions change. Standards do not. Listen carefully. The world rewards consistency, not intensity. Anybody can work hard for one day. Anybody can feel inspired for 1 week. But can you stay focused for months? Can you stay disciplined when progress is slow? Can you continue when excitement disappears? That is the real test. Because consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Most people underestimate small habits. They want dramatic change, big results, instant success. But life does not work that way. Big success is built through small victories. One disciplined morning, one focused hour, one workout, one page read, one promise kept, repeated daily, again and again, until your identity changes. Because habits become identity. If you repeatedly act weak, weakness becomes your identity. If you repeatedly act disciplined, discipline becomes your identity. Simple, but powerful. And your identity controls your future. That is why your habits matter more than your goals. Goals give direction. Habits create results. Without habits, goals are fantasies. Without discipline, dreams are wishes. Without consistency, talent means nothing. Look around. Many talented people fail, not because they lack ability, because they lack discipline. Talent without discipline creates regret. Average talent with discipline creates greatness. Because discipline always beats talent when talent refuses to work. Understand this. Your competitors are sleeping. Will you sleep too? Your competitors are making excuses. Will you make excuses too? Your competitors are wasting time. Will you waste time too? Or will you do what average people refuse to do? Because winners live differently. Winners sacrifice comfort. Winners sacrifice distractions. Winners sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term rewards. That is why they rise. Not because life is fair, because discipline is rare, and rare qualities create rare results. Listen carefully. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to force you to work. Nobody is coming to wake you up early. Nobody is coming to build your habits. That responsibility belongs to you, completely. And that truth scares weak people, because weak people love dependence. Strong people embrace responsibility. Strong people understand that self-control is freedom. If you control yourself, nobody can control your future. But if you cannot control yourself, distractions will control you. Comfort will control you. Excuses will control you. And eventually regret will control you. Do not let that happen. Build discipline now, not tomorrow, not next month, now. Because your future is watching what you do today. Not what you promise, not what you plan, what you actually do. Actions reveal identity, not words. And remember this, the most dangerous person is not the most talented person. The most dangerous person is the person who can stay disciplined when nobody is watching. Because they do not depend on praise. They do not depend on attention. They do not depend on motivation. They depend on standards. And standards create greatness. So work in silence. Train in silence. Study in silence. Build in silence. And let your results speak later. Because results silence doubt. Results silence criticism. Results silence excuses. And one day, people will call you lucky. They will see your success. But they will never see the lonely mornings, the painful sacrifices, the endless repetition, the discipline you practiced when nobody cared. That is the price of greatness. And greatness is always worth the price. Because standing alone is not enough. You must stand strong. And standing strong requires discipline. But even discipline can be destroyed by one dangerous habit. The addiction to approval. The need to be accepted. The fear of judgment. And before you can truly rise above everyone, you must free yourself from the opinions of people who are stuck. Because powerful people do not ask for permission. They trust themselves. And that is exactly what you will learn next. Chapter 4. Stop seeking approval from people who are stuck. Most people are not living their own life. They're living for applause, living for approval, living for acceptance, living for validation. And that is why they remain trapped. Because the moment your happiness depends on other people's opinions, your freedom disappears. Listen carefully. You do not need permission to improve your life. You do not need approval to become disciplined. You do not need acceptance to chase greatness. But weak people spend years asking for approval from people who are stuck themselves. Think about that. People with no vision giving advice about your vision. People with no discipline judging your discipline. People with average standards criticizing your ambition. And somehow, you're supposed to let their opinions decide your future? No, absolutely not. Because average people protect average lives. They do not understand growth. They do not understand sacrifice. They do not understand discipline. And people rarely support what they cannot understand. That is why you must stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your dreams. Stop announcing your plans. Stop seeking validation. And start working. Because powerful people do not seek approval. They seek progress. Weak people need applause. Strong people need results. There's a difference. And that difference changes everything. Most people are afraid of criticism. They fear being judged. They fear being misunderstood. But understand this. If you try to please everybody, you will lose yourself completely, because pleasing everyone is impossible. No matter what you do, somebody will disagree. Somebody will criticize. Somebody will doubt you. Somebody will misunderstand you. Good. Let them. Because your mission is not to convince people. Your mission is to improve yourself. And improvement requires focus, not explanations. Listen carefully. You're not responsible for making everybody comfortable. You are responsible for becoming stronger, mentally stronger, emotionally stronger, financially stronger, spiritually stronger. That is your responsibility, not approval, not popularity, not acceptance. Most people destroy their dreams because they are afraid of being judged by people who are doing less than them. Read that again. They sacrifice their future because of opinions coming from people who are not even building their own future. That is madness. Never allow small minds to define your potential. Never allow weak opinions to control strong dreams. And never ask for directions from people who are lost themselves. Because stuck people love company. Average people fear ambition. And insecure people criticize growth. Why? Because your progress reminds them of their excuses. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your courage reminds them of their fear. And weak people hate mirrors. That is why you must stop explaining your vision. Not everybody deserves access to your dreams. Not everybody deserves explanations. And not everybody deserves your energy. Protect your energy. Protect your peace. Protect your focus. Because energy is limited. And wasted energy creates wasted potential. Listen carefully. Confidence is not loud. Confidence is quiet. Confidence does not beg. Confidence does not chase approval. Confidence does not need validation. Confidence says, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I trust myself. That is real power. And real power is internal, not external. Because external validation is temporary. People praise you today, ignore you tomorrow, criticize you next week. So why build your identity on unstable opinions? Build your identity on principles. Build your identity on discipline. Build your identity on self-respect. Because self-respect lasts. Approval fades. Most people become emotional prisoners. One negative comment destroys their mood. One criticism destroys their confidence. One rejection destroys their motivation. Why? Because they gave strangers power over their emotions. Never do that. Your emotions belong to you, not to critics, not to doubters, not to people who do not understand your journey. Remember this. People can only meet you at the level they have met themselves. A lazy person will not understand discipline. A distracted person will not understand focus. A weak person will not understand sacrifice. And that is okay. You do not need everybody to understand you. You only need to understand yourself. Because self-trust changes everything. Self-trust allows you to keep going when nobody supports you. Self-trust allows you to stay disciplined when nobody believes in you. Self-trust allows you to walk alone without fear. And that is rare, very rare. Most people need constant reassurance, constant attention, constant encouragement. But powerful people develop internal strength. They become their own source of confidence, their own source of motivation, their own source of belief. That is freedom. Listen carefully. The world respects people who respect themselves. And self-respect is built through actions, not words. Every promise you keep to yourself builds confidence. Every sacrifice builds confidence. Every disciplined day builds confidence. Because confidence is earned, not given. That is why you must stop asking people for permission. Stop waiting for support. Stop waiting for approval. Stop waiting for validation. And start trusting yourself. Trust your discipline. Trust your standards. Trust your growth. Because one day, The same people who doubted you will wonder how you became so strong. And the answer will be simple. You stopped listening to weak opinions. You stopped seeking approval. You stopped explaining yourself. And you started building yourself. Quietly, relentlessly, consistently. Because powerful people understand one truth that average people never learn. You do not rise above everyone by pleasing everyone. You rise above everyone by mastering yourself. And once you stop needing approval from people who are stuck, something incredible happens. You become free. Free to think. Free to grow. Free to become who you were meant to be. But freedom alone is not enough. Because the final step is transformation. The final step is becoming so focused, so disciplined, and so committed that your old self becomes unrecognizable. Because you were never meant to stay average. You were meant to rise. And that brings us to the final lesson. Chapter 5. Become unrecognizable through focused growth. Look at your life honestly, not emotionally, not with excuses. Honestly, are you proud of the person you have become? Or are you simply surviving? Are you growing? Or are you repeating the same habits, the same distractions, and the same excuses year after year? Because here's the truth. You cannot become extraordinary while staying the same. Growth requires change, and change requires sacrifice. Listen carefully. Your old self cannot come with you. Your old habits cannot come with you. Your old excuses cannot come with you. Your old mindset cannot come with you. If you want a different life, you must become a different person. That is the price. And that is also the opportunity. Because transformation is available to everyone. Not just talented people. Not just lucky people. Disciplined people. Focused people. Committed people. People willing to outgrow who they used to be. Most people are not trapped by circumstances. They're trapped by identity. They still think like the person they were 5 years ago. They still behave like the person they were 5 years ago. They still make decisions like the person they were 5 years ago. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Nothing changes because they refuse to change. Understand this. Your future will never rise above your identity. If you believe you are weak, you will act weak. If you believe you are lazy, you will act lazy. If you believe you are average, you will settle for average. But when you decide that you are becoming stronger, everything changes. Because identity controls behavior, and behavior controls results. That is why focused growth is so powerful. Because growth is not about competing with others. It is about defeating the person you used to be. It is you versus you. Always. Not you versus society. Not you versus your friends. Not you versus strangers. You versus your old habits. You versus your excuses. You versus your comfort. And every day, one version wins. Which version is winning right now? The disciplined version? Or the distracted version? The focused version? Or the lazy version? Because one version is building your future, and the other is destroying it. Listen carefully. 1 year of focus can change your entire life. 1 year, not 10 years, not 20 years. 1 year of consistent effort. 1 year of discipline. 1 year of sacrifice. 1 year of growth. That is enough to become unrecognizable. But most people never experience that transformation because they quit too early. They stop when it becomes difficult. They stop when progress becomes slow. They stop when excitement disappears. But champions continue. Champions understand that success is boring. Success is repetitive. Success is discipline repeated daily. And that is why most people never reach greatness. Because they are addicted to excitement. But greatness is built through repetition. Wake up, work, train, read, improve, repeat, again and again and again. That is focused growth, not motivation, not inspiration, execution. Most people underestimate consistency. They underestimate small improvements. They want instant results, instant success, instant confidence. instant transformation. But life rewards patience. Life rewards discipline. Life rewards consistency. Understand this. You do not become strong overnight. You become strong by choosing strength repeatedly. You do not become confident overnight. You become confident by keeping promises to yourself repeatedly. You do not become successful overnight. You become successful through habits repeated daily. Small actions, massive outcomes. That is how focused growth works. And remember this, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to build your future. Nobody is coming to rescue your dreams. That responsibility belongs to you, completely. And that should excite you. Because if you are responsible, then you are powerful. You're responsible, then you can change. If you're responsible, then your future is still in your hands. Most people spend years waiting for motivation, waiting for support, waiting for opportunities, waiting for perfect conditions. And while they wait, life moves on. Do not become one of those people. Start now. Start imperfectly. Start tired. Start afraid. Start alone. But start, because movement creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Listen carefully. You do not need to be perfect. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is the goal. Daily progress. Relentless progress. Focused progress. Because focused growth creates unstoppable people. And unstoppable people are not born. They are built. Built through pain. Built through discipline. Built through sacrifice. Built through consistency. That is how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not through talent. Not through luck. Through standards. Higher discipline. Higher expectations. And one day, people will look at you and ask, what changed? They will see the confidence. They will see the discipline. They will see the results. But they will never see the lonely nights, the painful mornings, the sacrifices, the struggles, the battles you fought with yourself. Because the greatest battles are invisible, and the greatest victories are internal. Remember this. Your goal is not to impress people. Your goal is to become someone your old self would admire. Someone stronger, someone calmer, someone more disciplined, someone who no longer makes excuses, someone who no longer follows the crowd, someone who no longer fears loneliness, someone who no longer seeks approval, someone who trusts themselves, someone who stands alone and rises above everyone. Because that is what this journey has always been about. Not proving people wrong, proving yourself right, not competing with others, mastering yourself, not seeking attention, seeking growth. Because when you master your mind, discipline your habits, trust yourself, and stay focused long enough, you become unrecognizable. And that is the ultimate victory. Stand alone, rise above everyone, and become the person you were always capable of becoming. Stand alone, not because you hate people, but because you refuse to let weak opinions control your future. Stand alone when nobody believes in you. Stand alone when progress feels slow. Stand alone when distractions call your name. Because greatness has always belonged to those who could walk their own path. Stop following the crowd. Stop seeking approval. Stop waiting for permission. Think independently. Work relentlessly. Build discipline. Master yourself. Remember this. The strongest person in the room is not the loudest. It is the person who can stay focused when everyone else is distracted. The next version of you is waiting. Stronger, calmer, smarter, more disciplined. The question is simple. Will you continue living like everyone else? Or will you stand alone, rise above everyone, and become the person you were meant to be? Your challenge starts now.